installing a saltwater foot pump. Anyway, we're going to go off to the shop. Looking for my hole saws. I do know where they are. So I'm looking for a hole to drill that. Looks like a 3/4. And I know my hole saws are in this bucket. That one's paint. That one's my cameras. This one is tools. And I just happen to know my hole saws are in that particular toolbox. I have obviously other toolboxes, but that's where it is. Okay. So this is what I did. As you can see, I've stacked up my camera, my paint on top of the freezer, and there's my tools, and you can see hole saws. They're all in there, and I just happen to know what's basically in this box. So the workshop comes to the rescue again. Here she is, the hole saw, and should be able to see that it's going to fit kind of perfect. So that's the one I'm going to use to drill the hole for the spigot. So when you're drilling holes into your boat, especially into the finished surfaces, my theory is don't be afraid, but in reality be very, very afraid, because once you screw that up, you have to MacGyver something to fix it. Case in point, right beside us here is my beautiful Catalina nameplate for my water maker, and as you can see around the Catalina is this beautiful black piece of plastic. The reason that big beautiful black piece of plastic is there is that I cut the hole in the wrong spot, and I had to cover up the hole with something. So don't think that the world's come to an end when you screw up completely, but you can cover it up with something else. If you didn't know, you wouldn't know. Anyway, there's my pilot hole. And there's my pilot hole, and let the fun and games begin. Okay. So set the drill in the pilot hole. Whoop. So one thing I am learning is this countertop is solid plastic, which I didn't know. I thought it was a laminate of some sort. So good on Lagoon. It's solid plastic all the way through. You can see it's cut through the gray, and now it's going into something not wood. I was always worried about water sitting on that sucking up wood, and it's not wood. As is our tow rail. I tried sanding it and making it look pretty because I am a kind of a carpenter dude, and it's plastic. Okay, the other thing that I'm pretty religious about is cleaning up. And if you remember, we were talking about our Dyson. Here it is, and here's all the plastic. So I'm just gonna if you clean up as you go, it just makes the job, I'm sweating, a little bit easier. One of the things that I really do love is when you start drilling holes into a boat, you get to learn how the thing was built. Every time I drill through something into a lagoon, I'm astonished at the quality of the fiberglass, the thickness. The downside is it's probably heavier than it should be, but case in point, here we go. There's my hole, and you can see that I've cut through the plastic part, and underneath that is 3/4 inch plywood I still got to go through. So this countertop, all along here, all the way here, all 3 sinks. Yes, I said 3 sinks. 1, 2, 3. That was Mexican or Spanish. What are you laughing at?
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
Sí.
Okay, 3 sinks, and Yeah, we got carried away there. So it's the. I'll show you some other stuff that I cut that was astonishing. When I was doing my solar installation, I had to cut a hole right here for wires to come into the boat. This is the piece that came out. It's kind of, I mean, really? Wow. It's built like a tank. This is out of a sidewall on the side deck. All vacuum bagged. There's no air bubbles. It's amazing. The only way you find out about that is to cut holes in your boat. Okay, back to work. Okay, MacGyver's back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill out a bigger hole on the bottom that will, I'll show you. So this piece here has got to be screwed down, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut away the wood thickness with a larger hole saw. Well, maybe I'll go one size up. My next choice is a 2.5 inch. Well, pretty sure that one's big enough. Let's go. This is not going to be fun, but we'll get her done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the larger hole saw and cut the plywood apart away and then chisel it out and make it fit in there, and it'll just be supported by the upper. Should be okay. Okay, so I hope you're following along. What I did was I cut this piece of the part out of which was plywood, and this will allow this nut to go in and recess. The finished product. Yay! So even though you have a workshop, you have to kind of know where stuff is. And this time I had to do some digging. This is underneath the part that I carry all my power tools. So I've actually bought one of those rigid complete kit things, and it's worked out really well. Got a jigsaw here. This is my sander. This is a reciprocating saw. But down in the bowels right here is what I'm after. I knew it was in here. I just had to dig for it. And what this is a vibrating saw that I used for cutting trim. And it just vibrates and cuts. And it's a real handy tool. Sony Crafter. It's a cheap one. It's a Rockwell, but it's what I need. And I got one. And I know where it is. So the reason I got that little tool, I call it a plunge cutter, because you plunge in and cut. I'm not sure what they're really called, but that's what I call it. Plunge cutter. So my plunge cutter needed to get rid of this piece of wood, and so I plunged cut right there and got rid of the piece of wood that was here, so I can install the pump. And where is my pump? Here's my pump. So my pump is going to go about here somewhere, and it's going to sit on the floor right there, and I got to raise it up with a piece of Starboard scrap I had. So I'm going to cut a radius here to match the radius here in the wood, and then I'll lay it in there and mount this onto this and onto this, and then I'll plunge cut a hole here to facilitate this, which is the foot pump. Hold on, let me check. So like I said, I need to cut a radius on this piece of Starboard, and so I need to find a radius tool. Or I could find anything that was the same diameter as the thingy down there, like a yogurt container maybe. Yep, yogurt container works. So I'll show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put my yogurt container down, and I'm going to go with a pencil. Gives me my radius close enough, and I will cut that with a jigsaw, and we'll insert that. Cool! So I now have the spigot mounted, and I have to mount now the pump, the floor pump. So I'm going to screw it onto the bottom of the floor there, and I'm going to plunge cut these two dots vertically like this to allow the arm of the foot pump to come out through that gap. And it's just plunge cutting, and you'll see how plunge cutter works, I hope. Now I've put this metal plate down here so I don't scratch my beautiful Lagoon floor. Here we go, plunge cutting. I think you get the idea. Okay, we're getting there. The pump's almost ready to go. A little bit more hacking than I wanted to do. So the pump sits like so. Little foot pedal goes on the pump. You can see down here I had to, right here, I had to relieve some of the, because this, when the arm was going up and down, boing, 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 it was hitting the floor up there. I had to sort of relief it back to get me a longer stroke to make the pump work. So now I've just got to screw it down on those screw hole things there, and then I'm done. That's it. Oops, I'm sorry, gotta turn around. That's it. And then then a pipe down to the bottom, and a pipe up to the spigot, and
like the sound effects.
Lori will never understand me. Okay, here's the finished product. There's the pump. You just flip to it, foot pump. And water will come out of there. And you can see it's underneath my garbage can. You can see it right there. And the pipes are going to have to be screwed up this wall, but it's all installed. Okay, job's done, and I vacuumed until the vacuum died. But what you have to do next is clean up. You've seen my workshop clean, and now you're seeing it a complete and utter mess. So you gotta put everything away, back to where it belongs.